Started the recording. Welcome everyone to our May 21st Boulder County Mobility and Access Coalition meeting. We're very excited to have you all today here. We have a packed agenda and we have a very interesting panel today. So I want to just keep going and start us off so that we have enough time. Can we move to the next slide, Joseph? I just wanted to give a quick housekeeping update. You already know how to do this because you're on Zoom, but just in case it's needed, you can open this meeting on your browser, or you can also join with your phone, and that will be in the next slide. So you can, join from your browser, or in the next slide, we have information on just the phone, the one tap option for your phone, so you can join us if it was a phone call. Next slide. Please keep yourself muted, and we will love to see your faces. If it's something that it's doable for you, you can turn on your camera and just say hello for a second. We will have a panel later, so we'll get to meet our panelists too. But yeah, you can use the chat to add questions as we go through the panel. We'll have a little bit of time for our panelists to respond to any questions. And these meeting will be recorded. We have a YouTube channel, in case you don't know. If you go to Boulder County Mobility for All on YouTube, you can find us, and this is where we record and store all of these meetings. Just as a quick reminder, we know that this coalition is formed to help support the transportation needs of Boulder County. So we're a local coordinated council, and our alliance is formed by community organizations, individuals, and interest groups that work together towards improving transportation services. We focus on supporting people that are facing mobility challenges. We also help low-income families, older adults, people with disabilities, youth, and veterans. So this is kind of like the goal of what we do. We want to center equity and access to whatever we all need to go. Next slide. As you can see, we have a lot of things going on in today's agenda. The first thing is going to be a welcome. Then we're going to have a quick update from Nick. He's going to tell us about the recreation shuttles that the season has launched. So we want to hear about that. Then we're going to have a panel discussion. We have Lisa from DIA Airport. We have Nisha from DRCOG, Melissa from Boulder County, and Eric from North East Transportation Connections. We'll finalize with some organizational updates, and just a reminder that our next meeting will be in June, and it will be in person in Lafayette. With that said, we're going to stop. Oh, wait, no, we have another slide before we move to Nick. So as you come into this space, please write in the chat your name, your organization, and what's your favorite part of your daily routine. Just as a quick icebreaker. And this also helps us with keeping track of attendance and the organizations that we have here today. So name, organization, and what's your favorite part of your daily routine? If you also feel like sharing what's the favorite part of your daily routine, you can just unmute and share that with everyone. I think that could be fun. So
I will jump in. I love playing connections in the morning and sharing them with my friend Brandon from RTD to see who got a perfect score that day.
Yeah.
Hopefully both of us.
I was gonna say, do you are normally the one with the perfect score?
You know, I wish I could say it was always the case, Jessica. Not quite.
I love connections, Nisha. I'll have to get on that exchange with you and Brandon.
All right, I'm in, Elaine.
So not perfect.
Yeah. So what's yours, Elaine, then? What's your favorite thing to do?
Well,
part of your
Nisha was reminding me that, you know, the those New York Times puzzles are pretty fun, and I've only ever had one Wordle that I got right on the first time out. But I usually do some yoga in the morning. It's a way to get my body moving and feel a little more awake and, less
Yeah,
creaky.
squeaky.
Creaky.
It's a good one. Thank you. So we have snuggles with dogs for Melissa, and then we have meditating, dream journaling, gardening with my cats. Oh, that sounds fun. Early morning miles, gardening, launch time. That's a good one. Mm, having caffeinated tea. That's a good one too for Joseph. Oh, this is fun. Okay, I could do this for a little bit, but we're gonna transition. So Joseph, if you want to stop sharing, we can pass it along and hear from Nick. Nick Aguilera is our long-range transportation planner, and he's gonna tell us all about the shuttles. So yeah, go ahead, Nick, the floor is yours.
Cool. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Mobility for All team, and hello, Mobility and Access Coalition. I'm happy to be here. My name is Nick Aguilera. Just like Jessica said, I'm long-range transportation planner with Boulder County, working to support a lot of the bicycle, bus, walking projects in Boulder County and trying to make it easier and safer for all people to use our roads within the county. Um, my favorite part of my morning routine is making a little cup of coffee. I'm happy to be here with you all today to talk about transit trails, the recreational shuttles that Boulder County is supporting to make it easy, safe, and fun for you all to get to our trails in our beautiful open space. Um, as you all know, there's incredible public lands and protected spaces in Boulder County. Many of them open for public access, some just truly to take care of nature and protect our environments. Um, and, we're also in a region with incredible places to go to, like Rocky Mountain National Park. You can see a big list of them here. The ones that I'm going to talk about are, of course, what's within the city of Boulder, Indian Peaks Wilderness Area, El Dorado Canyon, and a little bit more. As I was saying, there's incredible places. Some of these are the most iconic pictures that you see of Colorado and like tourism throughout the country and throughout the world, from Chautauqua Park, right here in Boulder, in the city of Boulder, Colorado, the Indian Peaks Wilderness, not too far up the canyon, El Dorado Canyon itself. But due to how incredibly popular these places are, there's incredible demands to visit them, which can lead to a lot of traffic congestion and stress as you get there. Not to mention the impact this can have on the environment, as well as like safety and emergency response on our roads. This is not fun as a driver, or people planning to try to visit these parks, to get stuck in traffic and to be stressed along with everybody else, in addition to the incredible congestion and sometimes people parking in places where they're not supposed to, which can lead to a ticket, also just lead to challenges for emergency response in the event that we need that. Um, Sometimes people can't even, get turned away from these parks after they're planning to get there for the entire day, because they're searching for a parking spot. That said, Boulder County has worked with regional partners to make it easy for you to get there without a car through recreational shuttles. So I'm going to talk to you about some of those today. Those being the Hesse shuttle up in Netherlands, to get to the Hesse Trailhead in the Indian Peaks Wilderness area, which you can easily get to on the NB RTD bus. The Park to Park shuttle that makes it easy to get to beautiful Chautauqua Park, the Eldo shuttle, which gets you to El Dorado Canyon, as well as a few other beautiful parks in the area, and the Estes Park shuttle through Bustang. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more, go through these quickly, and then this information will, I believe, will also be able to be sent out to you afterwards, so that you can go to these websites and learn a little bit more. So first is the Park to Park shuttle, which gets you to the beautiful Chautauqua Park in the city of Boulder. Chautauqua Park, I think it's around over 1 million visitors per year, sometimes over 1,200 people on a single day. So you can only imagine how hard and how stressful it can be to go find parking nearby. This also causes a challenge for, people arguing with each other in the parking lot, also neighbors. So it's really nice to park downtown, or park in one of the nearby parking rides, hop on the shuttle and not worry about that stress as you get up to the park. It's a shuttle service that's free to the user. that connects you between downtown Boulder and Chautauqua, stopping at 7 park and ride stations on the way. It operates Memorial Day, so this upcoming weekend through Labor Day, Saturday, Sundays, and holidays, 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., running every 15 minutes, and is ADA compliant and wheelchair accessible so that all people of all abilities can use it. More information is at the bottom of this slide, and there will be links on each of these slides to go find more information about all these other shuttles. The Hesse shuttle is a wonderful shuttle that you can take from Nederland High School to the Hesse Trailhead. This is a trailhead that's so popular that sometimes parks has to turn away over 400 vehicles, on these popular summer months from people that are trying to drive alone to these trailheads. So it's really nice to be able to hop on this shuttle and know that you don't have to worry about getting to the trail easily and on time and on schedule. So once again, this is free to users operating May 23rd through October 12th. And once again, I think this information will be able to be sent out to you all afterwards, but it runs on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. those Fridays and Sundays, and 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturdays. One other really cool thing about the Hesse shuttle is that you can get to it directly by taking the NB bus. So the route NB is bus service operated by RTD between downtown Boulder Station and Nederland that can connect you directly to that Hesse shuttle service. All you have to do is tell the driver that you'd like to be dropped off there when you're coming up from Boulder. And you can turn that entire trip into a wonderful public transit and the outdoors experience. RTD tickets are relatively affordable, $275 each way for adults, with discounts available for seniors, people with disabilities, and of course, all youth ride RTD for free. The Eldo shuttle is also a really wonderful shuttle to get you to El Dorado Canyon State Park, which has also started to implement a timed entry program. So if you haven't made or aren't able to make a reservation to get into the park in a private vehicle, it's a wonderful way to know that you can always get into the park. It's once again free shuttle service for users, operating weekends and holidays, May 24th, so coming through September. I'm running excuse me, sorry, everybody, running every 20 minutes. Once again, sorry, but I'm recovering from a cold. Um, um, this has never happened on presentation before.
No worries, no worries. I know that you've been sick, so.
No. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm almost done. Once again, free to users, a Colorado State Parks Pass is required to get into El Dorado Canyon State Park, but you can ride the rest of the shuttle for free and purchase a ticket either on your phone, show that you already have it on your your license or your registration for your car, or pay in cash when you get to the park. Lastly, the busing to Estes Park is a wonderful way to get to Rocky Mountain National Park. Rocky Mountain National Park also requires timed entry due to the incredible heavy demands to visit this beautiful public lands. And so it's really nice to know that you can hop on busing and not worry about making a reservation to get into the park. Once again, a lot of information on the slide that will be sent out to you all afterwards. Yeah, and so just know that Boulder County is working hard to make it easy for you all to access these beautiful public spaces where we live, and do so without having to deal without the stress of driving. If you have any questions, the Mobility for All team also has a lot of these answers, but always feel free to reach out to me at Aguilera@bouldercounty.gov. And a lot of information to learn about these shuttles is also available on these slides, which I believe will be available to you all afterwards. I can take a few quick questions. Apologize for my voice, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. I think there's just one question in the chat. Melissa wants to know if the shuttles are pet friendly.
Oh, you'd have to confirm with all of the shuttle services. I believe that you can take pets on the Hesse shuttle for sure, like a dog with you. And I need to confirm about the others, Melissa.
The Eldo shuttle is also pet friendly, for sure.
And Jennifer, I see your hand raised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, I have a Nisha ride card, which works like a bus pass on fixed route buses, but does it work the same on shuttles?
So Jen, you're asking if your bus pass works on these shuttles?
Well, my Nisha ride card is my bus pass?
All of these shuttles that I just mentioned are free to users, so you can take the Eldo shuttle, the Hesse shuttle, the Park to Park shuttle for free. You may have to pay. You would have to pay directly to get into El Dorado State Park, and you would also have to pay. You might have to pay for the busing service, but otherwise, your pass should work for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I think we also have what is the name? A press release that went out with information about these shuttles. Adriana, if you could please add your question in the chat. I want to move on because we need time for our panel. So Joseph, if you can start sharing the screen again. We're going to start with introductions for employment transportation panel. We gather a group of people that are doing amazing job, amazing work, and getting people to work in Boulder County and the region. So we are going to start with introductions, and I believe the first one is Melissa. So I'm going to pass it over to you if you want to introduce yourself, what you do, and as we go through the slides, just covering the information related to what you do at your organization to engage with transportation demand management programs, whether it's through planning, policy, program delivery, partnerships, and so on.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa. I'm the mobility programs coordinator with Mobility for All, but today I'm wearing my employee transportation coordinator hat, and I split my time essentially between those two roles. But and I've been in this ETC role since about January, so I'm new to it, but catching on pretty quickly to what it's all about. At Boulder County, the Employee Transportation Benefits Program has been in the works for a long time, but at present, and we could go to the next slide, I can just go over really quickly what our commute situation is like. For the most part, it's a 50-50 split between our community here at Boulder County, who lives in Boulder County and who doesn't, making the average commute roughly 15 miles one way. But to help support that, because that is a long trip one way, we have a couple of employee transportation benefits that we do offer, and I'm currently evaluating their effectiveness, but I will go over those very briefly based off of what we have from last year's information. Next slide. So for our EcoHouse program, probably the most well-known of all of the programs, all Boulder County employees are able to get this, while it may not work for those who live or are recreating outside of Boulder County or the RTD service area. The benefit is available, and a lot of people do use it specifically for the airport. That's alone pays for itself, but a lot of people do use it for their commute. Since we switched over to the digital My Ride cards and everything, we're seeing that not a lot of people are using it for their daily commute, where people are using it less than 75% of people are using it less than 10 times in the year. But I'm hoping that with more education and travel trainings, we'll be able to get people doing that for their commute and not just for the airport. In addition, we've got the B-Cycle membership. That's very popular here in Boulder, but it does not serve everybody, but it is available to everybody. So if they are in the city at some point, they can use the service. Next slide. I will briefly go over our van pool program. It is very small right now. We only have one van pool active, but pre-COVID we had 6. So we had roughly 25 people commuting with van pool before the pandemic, and I'm hoping to bring that back again in my new role. And then the guaranteed ride home program, we had 2 trips reimbursed last year, and it works very similar to the Way to Go program, but we did take our own approach to it, so it gives us a little bit more flexibility on what trips are qualified. And then new this year, next slide, We have our bike programming, bike tune-ups, where we've done 15 bike tune-ups covered by Boulder County. Any major repairs is on the employee, but minor, flat tires and tune-ups and stuff like that is covered by us. And we're hoping to have 24 more by Bike to Work Day in June. So we'll have some new riders. And then I also did a bike giveaway with our Boulder County staff, and we have one winner so far, and I'm looking forward to doing more. So those are just the quick and dirty facts about what we've got going, and I'm looking forward to the panel. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. Thanks for that introduction and brief overview of the program. We're going to move over and hear from Lisa Nguyen. She is Principal Airport Transportation Planner. Lisa, take it
Thanks,
away.
Jessica. Hi, my name's Lisa Nguyen, Principal Transportation Planner for Denver International Airport. Really excited to share a little bit about our Transportation Demand Management Program at DEN and our mobility plan as well. Next slide, please. All right, so my first slide here is DEN by the numbers, showcasing some really high-level information about our airport. We are actually the 3rd busiest airport in North America and the 6th busiest in the world as of last year. Last year, we broke our own record and served 82.3 million passengers. For those counting, that is actually more than our pre-pandemic 2019 volume at 69 million. The other important thing I like to point out on this slide is that we have 41,000 employees here at the airport. So that's a lot of folks making their trips to and from, making those commutes. Most of our employees are forward-facing, passenger-facing roles. So kind of keeping that in mind as we look at our TDM program and what commutes mean for someone who works at the airport. Next slide, please. All right, so this slide showcases some of the ways to get to and from the airport with public transit. As Melissa just mentioned, the bus from Boulder is a great option. The AB runs from downtown Boulder to the airport directly. Really great option for folks in Boulder County. Additionally, we have several other buses that serve the Denver metro region, as well as the A-line that runs from downtown Union Station to the airport. So really grateful that we have that as options. I'll also pause and kind of mention something. As far as our bus traffic, when we look at our origin destination passengers at the airport, that's every passenger that's either coming from Denver or to Denver, not making a transfer. Of those, about 14% of our passengers have access to these bus routes. And then of those passengers, about 4% have access to the A-line within that catchment area. So something to just kind of think about there. Next slide, please. This slide over here showcases a couple of our really exciting deliverables. So in spring of 2024, last year, we finalized the Pena Boulevard Transportation Mobility Master Plan. This is a long-range plan looking at how the airport can look at ground transportation, Pena Boulevard, the 11-mile roadway that comes in and out of the airport, but also what are other ways that we can encourage folks to consider more sustainable transportation. Part of this effort was we did a lot of benchmarking, understanding our current mode share, understanding better a little bit of what those drivers are for why people make the choices that they do, and hopefully be able to help make some of that mode shift in years to come. The other really big document to come out of that plan is our TDM plan, or our Transportation Demand Management Plan. We have a couple really exciting goals here. And sorry, I know the formatting's a little different for me here. So by 2035, we're hoping to increase our passenger transit trips by 10%. As of 2022, we had about 9% of our passengers utilize public transit to get to and from the airport, hoping that within the next decade, we can boot that up another 10 percentage points. That, of course, includes the A-line, but also any of our buses and shuttles. So looking at more sustainable transportation options for our passengers. The other goal is for our employees at DEN. As I mentioned, we've got over 41,000 people making that commute to and from the airport to serve our passengers. So that's a lot of trips. We found that there's about 71% of our employees that drive by themselves to get to and from the airport, hoping that within the next decade, we can drop that by 10 percentage points and find some more ways for our employees to get to and from the campus in a more sustainable environment. If you'd like, on the very bottom corner, you can scan that QR code. That will take you to our planning page website where you can find the full versions of both of these documents. Next slide, please. So this slide over here showcases the 20 different strategies that came out of our TDM plan. As we were looking through our plan, we discussed well over 70 different ideas and strategies and kind of boiled them down to these 20 different solutions that we can kind of start out with. But before we start running with our program, I will mention we're doing a couple program startup pieces. One of those is actually branding. The term transportation demand management is a huge mouthful and frankly doesn't mean a whole lot if you're not in our space living and breathing this environment daily. So we're going to be working with a DBE locally to brand our program, make it a little bit more intuitive and catchy for our passengers and also our employees. This company has actually worked with several TMAs locally as well, so really excited to work with them. Hopefully sometime this fall, we should be able to roll out with our collateral and our TDM program with a fun brand, hopefully. As we look into these strategies, the 20 strategies are broken into 3 different priorities based on a little bit on kind of like long, medium term. I'll mention that of those priority 1, we are currently working on guaranteed ride home. That's the GRH, van pooling and carpooling. All 3 of these are programs that DRCOG already has up and running and standing. So trying to utilize what's already existing in the region and bringing it to our employees so that they can better utilize that. Next slide, please. And actually really excited to have a couple tangible pieces that are already in play here at the airport. First piece I'm going to talk about is on the left-hand side. So earlier this year in February, the airport installed its first transit screen. This is a pilot program and it lives on a giant monitor in our level 5 arrivals in the terminal. Sits between our information ground transportation desks, but essentially this is a dynamic monitor that showcases when the next buses are going to be, when the next train's going to be, what other ground transportation options, and then I think really interestingly, the live traffic conditions. When we did our survey for our mobility study, for folks who said that they didn't take public transit, what was their reason why? About 1/3 of our passengers said that they didn't take public transit because they didn't know about it. So I think sometimes we might take for granted the ability to pull open Google Transit or understand it if we're in the space. So hoping that this monitor helps to better inform our passengers of their various options and ways to move and be a little bit more equipped to make that decision. The other thing I'm going to talk about is our bike and scooter racks. The first one on the top, that silver zigzaggy rack, that has been a rack at the airport that opened when we first opened the A-line. Definitely better than nothing, but not our first area. We, at the time, had found there were just a handful of miscellaneous bike parts locked up, pieces. So we worked with our operations team to clean that area up, make sure that it's usable and open, clean some of the droppings and debris that was in the area. And then a couple weeks ago, we actually installed our first of these new bike racks. They're kind of that bright purple color there. We also installed some scooter parking as well. We have found that there's been a handful of personal scooters, e-scooters that are in our transit center at the time locked on random signposts and random things. So we recognize there's a need for that mobility option as well. So really excited to have bike and scooter parking offered. Last thing I'll mention is that the airport is really, really excited. Next month, we're hosting our first Bike to Work Day breakfast station out here at the airport. Really looking forward to getting some more eyes and attention on our new bike and scooter parking facilities, as well as helping to better inform those sustainable transportation options. And with that, I think the last slide is just for questions, and the QR code should lead you to the TDM plan. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes, so we're going to do questions at the end, if that's okay, Lisa. And apologies for mispronouncing your last name. As somebody with an unusual last name also, I know that that can be annoying. So we're going to move forward with Nisha. I will not try to mispronounce your last name, so I'm going to give you the floor.
Challenge you, Jessica.
Right, it's all recorded. No,
It is.
I'll just pass it over to you.
Amazing. Thank you. And Jessica, do you have my deck loaded perchance? Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm Nisha Mokshagundam. I'm the manager over at Way to Go, which is a program of the Denver Regional Council of Governments. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we do here and how our program operates. But Jessica, I appreciate you all sending me just some prompts to kind of get started. So many of you are probably aware of who DRCOG is. I know the agency name has come up several times on today's call, but Way to Go is a program within the communications and marketing team at DRCOG, and we primarily do outreach and education and marketing for commuters and employers. So we represent the 9-county region near Denver, and I guess you could call us a commute options program. We also represent a partnership between DRCOG and 8 transportation management associations that represent different communities within the region. And we primarily work with employers, but we also do a lot of outreach and communications to residents to talk about sustainable transportation options that are available to them. So things like transit, active transportation like biking and walking, carpool, and van pool. And then I do want to mention that we also offer the region's school pool program, which is a ride matching program for people who take care of kids who go to school. And you can stay on this slide for one moment. So I did want to just quickly talk about our funding. So Way to Go is primarily funded through federal congestion mitigation and air quality dollars that are currently administered through CDOT. And so our goal is really around reducing single occupant vehicle use within the region. I did want to mention this last item. We manage a voluntary program. What that means is nobody is required to work with us, but we do find that engaging with businesses, especially those with about 150 employees or more, is kind of the easiest way for us to achieve long-term significant commute behavior change in the region, just because when employers provide a supportive environment for eco-friendly and sustainable commuting, it obviously is much easier for staff to take advantage of those options. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that we are a partnership between DRCOG and 8 TMAs. This map, I think, does a really good job of kind of explaining the scope and breadth of the work that we do. So anything that is not shaded in this peachy color is covered by our Transportation Management Association partners, each of whom is slightly different and maybe address or tackle the topic of reducing vehicle trips or single occupant vehicle trips in slightly different ways. But anything that is in that peachy color is covered by my team here at DRCOG. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our mandate here really is to reduce the use of single occupancy vehicles and get people into more sustainable transportation modes. And the way we do this is, you know, I didn't want to fill up a slide with all of our tactics, but typically we do a lot of employer outreach. So reaching out to businesses, finding out what transportation benefits they currently offer, and then coming up with some solutions that might work for them and their staff, especially given considerations around cost. We also do a lot of surveys, both within organizations as well as among our program participants, just to figure out what kind of habits they have when it comes to commuting. So what distance are they traveling? What modes do they primarily use? And perhaps what is their in-office schedule, which has become a topic that I think is more and more relevant post-pandemic. And then finally, we host a lot of events. I think most of you are probably, if not all, aware that Bike to Work Day is coming up. This is our biggest event. It's kind of our flagship event. We get tens and thousands of people to participate in that each year. And we find that it actually helps people make long-term commute behavior changes just by giving them one structured day where they can try out their commute by bike. So we find that actually throughout the year, Bike to Work Day has really good VMTR. And we also do monthly challenges where we offer incentives, which we pay for through sponsorship dollars. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our process. So when we do outreach, whether it's to an employer or a school, the outreach team are going to figure out which entities need help. And we can do that in a lot of different ways. We have several software options for lead capture. We get a lot of inbound leads that come in through our communications and marketing campaigns. And then we will conduct outreach to those businesses or schools again. We have started recently doing some residential outreach, so reaching out to people who have just moved into the region to kind of get them before they have solidified their commute behaviors. We find this has not been as effective, though, as reaching commuters through their employer. So that is going to continue to be our primary tactic. As I mentioned, we'll assess what transportation benefits the employer currently offers. If we're talking to an individual commuter, we'll ask them what options they have access to. And then we can use tools such as heat maps or dot maps to determine what are the most feasible options for those commuters or for a group of commuters. At that point, we'll come up with a list of recommendations, and we've actually formalized this process to the point now where we have a template for this document that we call a trip reduction plan. And it really looks at survey and assessment data, both from staff as well as employers. We could also put together a trip reduction recommendation for an individual. But what it looks at is what is feasible for you, the commuter, to use in terms of your transportation option that will get you out of that solo driving trip. Finally, I mentioned a little bit about the programs and events that we manage, our monthly challenges, our Bike to Work Day event and its sister event in the winter Bike to Work Day. And then we do a whole lot of marketing and education aside from our outreach. So we have several annual campaigns that align with different times in the season. We always have a summer awareness campaign where we talk about ozone days and how people can sort of help clean up the air quality on those days. And then we like to fill in those gaps with things like Winter Bike to Work Day or Gotober, which is our fall engagement campaign. That's all I have for this introduction, but happy to be on this panel and answer some questions when it's time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nisha. Thank you for giving the overview of the program. Last but not least, we're going to move on to Eric. Eric, would you mind? I think you have your own deck, right? So Joseph, if you could on-share screen and then give Eric the opportunity to share his.
Yeah, thank you. Let me pull this up.
Yeah.
Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am Eric Herbst. I am with the Northeast Transportation Connections. We often go by NETC for short. We are one of the 8 TMAs that Nisha just mentioned. I might have a lot of duplicate information that Nisha had, but I can speak more to kind of our personal kind of TMA goals and outreach and programs that we do. So the same map we have here that Nisha just showed, I did highlight kind of in that reddish pinkish color. This is our boundaries. So NETC kind of goes along the I-70 corridor basically from I-25 all the way out past like U-470, pretty far east of Denver, just south of the airport there. Our approach has always been rooted in community engagement. So a lot of our programming really works with community members, with key leaders in the community and community serving nonprofits to really ensure that our programming is both relevant and effective to the communities that we're serving. So that's always been a really strong focus of ours as a TMA. Traditionally, we do a lot of the outreach to businesses and employers and employees that Nisha had mentioned. So a lot of what she just covered with the Way to Go program, the Bike to Work Day program. So each of the TMAs kind of help with their individual regions to really kind of lift up these programs like Bike to Work Day and GoTober. We work with RTD for RTD Pass programs with employers, the Vanpool program with Commute with Enterprise, and then also the Colorado Clean Commute program that's also kind of part of a state tax credit right now that businesses can take advantage of to reduce their cost on some of these programs. So we're all about kind of that education and outreach to help businesses as well as community members understand what resources they have for transportation. Our programs, besides kind of the Way to Go partnership, we have a lot of kind of one-off programs and projects that we work on. So some of those are listed here. So we have an e-bike library program where we have these community e-bike libraries currently in the Globeville, Elyria, Swansea communities. We have about 30 e-bikes. Most of those are kind of your regular class 2 e-bike, but we also have 4 cargo bikes to haul either kids or cargo available in those bike libraries, as well as a bike trailer that can be added to any bike to just haul gear for events or do much bigger projects. We work with a lot of the community partners on those bike libraries as well to get access to those bikes to the community and to the people who really need access to them. We also work with Clara Brown Commons. We helped them launch their own e-bike library. We worked with them on a grant to get their own e-bikes modeled after our e-bike library program. And that's directly giving residents there access to the e-bikes for their programming. We also do a lot of secure bike parking programs. We have on-demand bike lockers at the Central Park station along the A line. And then we have on-demand secure bike racks at the Stanley Marketplace. This is a new area where we're trying to get more on-demand secure bike parking throughout our region. This is something I think that, Lisa mentioned at DEN, having kind of new bike racks and secure bike parking available. I think this is something we're trying to get more of throughout the region. And it's an exciting time to where there's a lot of different items on the market to make it a lot more user-friendly, a lot more accessible, to not have to have your own bike lock, but to be able to go somewhere and have secure bike parking at that facility. We also have a lot of microtransit programs. That's something that we felt was really needed in our area, is this first last mile connection, whether it be communities or business parks. So we have the Denver Connector pilot that we just finished up. That was a 3-year pilot that the city now runs and continues to operate that program in Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, in Montbello and Gateway. And then they just added the West area Denver Connector. And that's a free microtransit system, again, on demand, super convenient and easy to use for anybody. It really helps with getting to services, local rec centers, libraries, kind of anything you need it to, with the only requirement being you have to start and end your trip within a specific boundary. So we like to have these programs that are really easy to access. They're really affordable, if not free. We want all of our programming to be kind of first-class programming. with really easy, low barriers to entry to be able to get anybody and everybody who needs this service access to that service. Some of the other microtransits are the Majestic Commuter we just launched this month, the Aurora Highlands Aero Shuttle. Those both go to the 40th and Airport train station. And one serves a new community out there, and one serves a business park, working with big employers like Amazon and Shamrock, and a handful of others out in that area. Another program I wanted to touch on was our GES Tolling Equity Program, and that is in the Globeville, Elyria, Swansea neighborhoods, and that's specifically giving those residents free access to those tolling lanes, those express lanes that are right in their community. So we give free transponders to anyone who lives in the community there. If the express lanes aren't valuable to them, if they can't really use that express lane, we offer other programs and resources such as RTD monthly passes instead of the transponders, if that works better for them. So that's another great program that we get out to the community and try to give kind of better access to mobility resources to the community. That was really quick. That's I didn't want to take up too much time, but I'm happy to stay on for questions.
Yeah.
And this is my contact.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. And thank you all for introducing your programs. I have a list of questions. Lisa, I know that you need to leave soon-ish, so I'll ask you the question first, and then Melissa, Eric, and Nisha, you'll have an opportunity to answer afterwards. We're gonna focus on commuter behavior and trends post-COVID. So it's a two-part question for all of you. The first part of the question is, how have commuter patterns shifted since the COVID pandemic? And what are some trends that you're seeing in remote work? And then the second part is related to lower income workers. So we know that while a lot of people are, working remote or hybrid, people who are essential workers continue to be in person. So how is your TDM program adapting to meet the needs of essential workers? So yeah, Lisa. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, I'll touch on the COVID-19 pandemic. The airport, as I mentioned, kind of has a unique role as a campus. Of our 41,000 employees, many of them are essential. They're passenger facing. I think there are some companies, including the city, county of Denver employees who post-pandemic have the opportunity to potentially have some hybrid work schedule that's 2 days flexible, but for the most part, a lot of our employees are in person. So keeping that in mind, one of the things we've worked with is we're trying to work with our large tenant groups to encourage sustainable transportation. One of the really exciting programs was we worked with RTD and our concessionaires at the airport such that all of our concessionaires now provide eco passes to their employees. This happened in 2023. And at the time, back then, RTD was doing tiered pricing for eco passes. So based on how many employees you had was how it was scaled. Through this contract, we were able to bargain for the lowest cost per employee and put them all under the broad concession umbrella. This really made a big difference to our smaller businesses. Some of our coffee shops have about 8 employees versus others have hundreds. So we've seen some really positive feedback there. But yeah, absolutely, we'll continue looking at how the socioeconomics and impacts for our employees in transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Yeah, I can add to that. At Boulder County, since the pandemic has cooled down, there has been a strong shift towards hybrid work. While currently there has been a lot of a push to bring people back into the office, I don't necessarily know how many departments are fully equipped for people to come back in, like 100% of the staff. We don't have enough desk space or conference rooms and stuff like that. So right now, I think the hybrid model is working for us where we have drop-in spaces. From a TDM's perspective, I do think that this is a great opportunity for people to rethink their travel habits, as they're encouraged to come back into person. Maybe they can consider even part-time giving up their car, their single person commute, and leaving their car at the park and ride and taking the bus in, or carpooling with coworkers that you're going to have a team meeting at the same time the same day. I do think that that comes with a lot of education, which is why I'm starting my series, my TED Talk series, of going around to all of the departments and sharing this information a bit more than what was probably done pre-COVID. So I am looking forward to doing that. As for our, essential workers that honestly were always in person, our public health facilities folks, our justice system folks, during COVID, the RTD fairs were halted, so no one was using their eco passes. Van pools were on restricted use. So during COVID, it was a definite challenge for people to come in person, but as we're coming out of that, I think there's a lot of opportunity to pivot.
Oh, thank you. Eric and then Nisha.
Yeah, I would say for us, because of the nature of the businesses kind of in our region, it's a lot of kind of warehouse and fulfillment centers and shift workers. So where it was really in person is kind of needed and necessary. I think what we found was that it was harder for us to get into these places during COVID, because like there's they're trying to manage that risk of any employees getting sick and needing to take time off. So there was really not an area that they could do kind of the remote or hybrid work. We're starting to see that open back up to where we're getting back into a lot of these businesses, which is really nice. But yeah, I think that was kind of more difficult for us during the COVID days of not really being able to pivot so much to telework programming. I think it did open up, like the microtransit system that we have for the Denver Connector started during that time. A lot of our e-bike programming started during this time for essential workers. So it really did kind of open up some opportunities with funding to address transportation for essential workers. And that really helped our region.
Thank you. Nisha?
Yeah, so the only thing I'll add related to telework is, the irony of people kind of being mandated to work from home is we saw some really positive impacts at the beginning, and then we realized lots of people were taking trips during the day. So we did see a lot of VMT as a result of that. But I wanted to also sort of highlight something that Melissa mentioned, and that's vanpool. I think that some of those options where you're putting multiple people into a vehicle, people were very mistrustful of that during the pandemic. So our vanpool enrollment numbers dropped by more than 50%. We are not quite back at pre-pandemic levels yet, although we're getting really close, and we anticipate being there by the end of 2025. And then I would also say we saw a lot of decreases in transit ridership. Again, people were feeling mistrustful of being in an enclosed space with people they don't know who may not be masked. And those numbers are definitely reflected in RTD's ridership numbers. But again, these trends are slowly reversing. So hopefully within, a year or so, we can get back to those pre-pandemic numbers.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
Yep.
Thank you. All of you did a great job at covering information about your specific programs and the benefits and incentives that you shared. So I want to move on and ask a question about barriers and challenges. So in your opinion, what are the biggest local and regional barriers to expanding TDM programs, especially thinking about underserved communities that have little or no, really no transit service? We're going to start with Lisa again, then Nisha, then Melissa, then Eric.
Perfect. Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, one of the challenges for DEN with our 41,000 employees is that not all of our employees live directly in close proximity to a transit station. Not all of them live within a transit stop that directly serves the airport. And as many of us know, the more number of transfers, the more number of seats someone has to make, that makes it more difficult for someone to make transit their choice of mode. So we're definitely working on trying to focus some of our employee areas that maybe aren't directly served by transit service to potentially pilot some van pools, maybe organizing some carpools, as well as providing guaranteed ride home so that any of those what if situations, they have that ride insurance.
Thank you, Nisha.
Yeah, I think the biggest barrier is when there aren't options for people to, just like Lisa kind of highlighted. So if you don't have transit near you, it doesn't go to the place where you're trying to go, it's obviously not a feasible solution. I think driving is really easy and driving alone is really easy. Almost everybody in this region has a car. So I think it's an attractive and appealing option. I also want to mention that people who have children and are responsible for school drop-offs and pickups, while that represents an opportunity for us at DRCOG because we manage the school pool program, that is a fairly significant barrier to people who might want to use non-single occupant vehicle options and just need, the flexibility that driving a car offers.
Important factors. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% agree with what everyone else has said, but I'd also wanted to just add that the first and last mile connections have been a challenge for our staff. The example I have is with parks and open space folks. While they're probably some of the most sustainability minded folks, they would love to take the bus. A lot of the parks and the offices that they work from are nowhere near transit stops, or maybe they'd have to walk 2 or 3 miles to get there. And after a long, sweaty day of, working on the trails and environmental education, they don't want to have to walk 2 miles to the bus stop. And, there's probably some of the lowest paid employees at Boulder County that many of them may not have cars. So they end up doing carpools or, in some cases, I've heard that people take Ubers to work, and that's just, a money hole. Like, that's really tough for people to do sustainably. So from that perspective, I think that's a big gap that our lowest paid workers are facing.
Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, I would agree with what everyone else has said as well. I think Denver has, and the region has, some growing pains to where, there's a lot more growth for us kind of happening to the east of our boundaries with a lot of employers coming in, but we don't quite have the local public transit routes to reach those employers. We're trying to fill in the gaps with kind of micro transit and connecting people to those higher frequent routes. When I think of biking, we need kind of more safe bike lanes and a bike network for that to be a viable option in specifically like any NETC's boundaries and probably all over the region. I think to Nisha's point of the car is still in Denver and the region is very convenient and easy, and we really need to work to lift up these other modes so that it's as easy as kind of grabbing your car keys on the way out the door. So making things safe and consistent and convenient. I think that's what we need to work towards, and those are big barriers and challenges. So more funding always helps too. So funding to get all these programs up and running. I think there's a will, but a lot of times there's a lack of funding.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, I'm mindful of the time and I want to take about 10 more minutes for this panel just to leave room for questions. So I'm going to focus on two different topics, equity and inclusion, and then looking ahead. We also had Lisa hop off. She needs to go to another meeting. However, we have Brody, who is going to be filling in for her. So let's talk about equity and inclusion. Some of you already talked a little bit about this topic, but what does it look like to embed equity meaningfully into TDM efforts, from policy and funding to implementation and performance tracking? So I'm going to start with Melissa, then Nisha, then Eric, and then Brody.
Sweet. So, I would say bringing my mobility for all mind of the human-centered approach to TDM, it's more than just reducing vehicle miles traveled, it's providing choices to people. And I think with Boulder County folks, many folks end up driving their own vehicles because they have many stops throughout their day. It's not just a point A to point B commute. They have field visits, they have trainings, they have meetings in person, where they have to be at a place at a certain time where maybe RTD can't provide that quick enough turnaround for them to get from point A to point B. So they end up driving. From an equity standpoint, that's just ridiculous that they have to use their personal vehicles and add that additional wear and tear onto their vehicles. What I've been looking into from a policy standpoint is Boulder County does have fleet vehicles. While not at every Boulder County location at this time, I think it can be an opportunity to support the commute during the workday, and open up new options so that folks don't have to feel obligated to use their personal vehicle during work hours. And then, as for funding, I think it's a really tough time to be talking about funding, but I am grateful that we've got some powerful people in the area that are talking about this and having, tax incentives and credits and, local funding options that will help get these programs through implementation. But yeah, that's what I kind of have to provide.
Thank you. Nisha?
Yeah, so to kind of start out on the topic of equity and inclusion, whenever we talk about equity in the context of the work we do here at DRCOG, we are just very similar to what Melissa said. We're really looking to give people lots and lots of options, and really focusing on improving access and education. So, something that we have tried to build into our annual campaigns and strategies is having a multilingual approach. So having materials that speak to people in their own language and in a way that is culturally relevant to them. So if we're doing any sort of annual campaign and we're doing any targeting, we do look at what those demographics are and try to meet them where they are. Yeah, I agree. Incentives would be great. Our program is funded through CMAQ money, and you cannot use those to purchase incentives. So we're always going after sponsorship dollars to buy things like food, giveaways, any kind of incentive item that would motivate people to make a behavior change. Honestly, I think paying people not to drive is going to be useful. I think that's going to be a really big strategy, or I guess tactic that, if we're able to implement in certain regions, could provide a use case that really creates a template for success. I also think that mandating that employers work with us and provide transportation options is going to, again, reduce that barrier. It's just going to make those options much easier to access. And then policies that support TDM and make it easier for people to use non-solo driving options, more funding for transit services. I mean, we need more frequency, we need more services. I think all of those things are really going to help, again, people find the option that works for them rather than adjusting their schedule to work for the option that they're looking for. So I think people really just want convenience, and I think there are a lot of ways to achieve that through policy.
Yeah. Thanks, Nisha. Thanks for bringing up cultural awareness and then also language access. Eric?
Yeah, I completely agree that kind of lifting up choices for people. When I think of like our microtransit systems, specifically the Denver Connector, that's been a very successful microtransit, and thinking about equity, we really tried to design that service with the community at the table. So really listening to what their needs were, when they wanted service, where they needed service to go, and then making it really low barriers to entry, that this is a free service for anybody. You don't really have to prove that you're, income qualified or that you live in the neighborhood. This is a service that any one of you could download the app and go to the service area and use it. And I think that really goes towards the success of the program, that we're not asking for a bunch of applications or proving any sort of status in the community, that it's really just a great on-demand, door-to-door free service that anyone would love to use. And I think if we could design more programs like that, instead of kind of thinking of, trying to limit it because somebody might take advantage of it, instead just try to focus on making it a really stellar service that anybody and everyone would love to take, and kind of focus on that rather than trying to make people jump through hoops to access a service. So that access is a really big piece, I think, of ours when I think of individual programs we have.
That's very true. Thank you, Eric. Brody, would you mind quickly introducing yourself and then just sharing your response?
Yeah. So, hi everybody. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having the airport on. Lisa has another meeting to talk about more mobility options for the airport as well. So, I'm the regional transportation planning supervisor for the airport. So Lisa's on my team, and we've been working towards transportation demand management and how we can implement that in a better way here at the airport, and looking at all the solutions above. And the airport's really leaned into equity and inclusion. We have a whole department called the Center for Equity and Excellence in Aviation. And the point of that is trying to get more people into the airport in a more equitable way, right? Getting them into jobs, getting them access to the airport as well. The airport's the largest mobility hub in the state, with many, many different trips coming in, accessing it in different ways, right? And so what we've been working on is those edges, if you will. So working towards more access to the transit center through ADA. Our airline partners provide mobility devices, and so making sure we can lean into them to provide better service to those areas, right? So people can ride the bus from Boulder and still get up to security in a timely manner, and have access to those mobility devices through there. Also, looking at regionally and locally, like Eric's mentioned, a lot of push towards bike trails and bike paths to connect to transit. That way we can see people using, a personal scooter at a low cost to them, and being able to park at the airport, at the transit center. So trying to find those edges that where we can help and push and get more access and choice, like others have mentioned, to get to the airport. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Brody, and thank you for filling in for Lisa. I have a last question for all of you. We're going to keep it super quick because we only had a few minutes for the panel. So let's think about the future. Looking ahead, how can TDM programs evolve to better support a diverse range of commuting needs in the context of climate goals, economic mobility, and changing land uses? So what is it that you see TDM in the future? Where are we going? And we can start with Nisha, then Brody, then Eric, and then Melissa.
Yeah, I heard a lot of really great ideas today, but I think the biggest issues are that first and last mile challenge and just overall access to options. We can talk about what options there are, and we do, but it doesn't work for everybody. So I think finding the low-hanging fruit and helping those people who have access is going to be kind of step one. But we really need to find some ways to fill in those gaps. And I think that's where policy becomes so important. I think that's why it's important for us to advocate for, new laws, new bills that will help support TDM. I wish I knew a better answer to this question so that I could say, here's exactly what we need to evolve to. But I do think it's going to be a moving goalpost, especially when we talk about, factors that are societal. So nobody could have anticipated what the pandemic would have done to TDM. There are going to be, I think, a lot of, events that probably sort of shift our perspective a little bit. But I do think that when you think about, climate goals, it becomes increasingly obvious, especially in a region like Denver, how important it is to proactively tackle some of these issues. it's just so hot here in the summer. We have these ozone action days where we cannot go outside or it's not safe for us to do that. I think that as more and more people become aware of how their actions can actually help mitigate some of these, environmental costs, I do believe that we just need more people to buy into these options. Education, awareness, and just personal lived experience will hopefully get them to that mindset change.
Thanks, Nisha. Brody?
Transportation is not disconnected from land use, right? So the biggest thing for us seeing around the airport is the choice of land use and how development is happening, right? And the development's happening without transit. And so that's a big concern, right? So, we're looking at multiple more micro transit being deployed just to get people to work from the big pockets of, manufacturing and warehousing that are occurring in our region, and just being very disconnected from housing supply. So land use, and as we go forward and really leaning into land use, having a better approach to land use and where uses are going to be attached, and how do we attach all three uses right together to get people to have a better choices of transportation. That's where we need to push all our focus to help with mobility.
Good points. Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, I think we're lucky in the region to have kind of the DRCOG and the Way to Go partnership. We have a state that really kind of brings TDM to the forefront on a lot of projects. So I'm really optimistic about that. I think, during my time here, I've been with NETC since 2013. And I've really seen kind of an evolution of TDM programs being geared more towards like 9-to-5 workers, like Monday through Friday workers. And that has slowly shifted. And I love seeing that evolution. And I hope that continues to where we gear TDM programs to those who have kind of the least amount of options available with transportation. So again, really kind of looking at the shift workers, the struggling families who are maybe sharing one car. So really designing TDM programs to address those who need it most. So I hope that we continue to gear TDM programs in that way. I think Brody mentions, land use and infrastructure really influences the options and the behavior change that people are willing to do. So if we can get ahead of it on the land use and infrastructure side, I think it'll make the behavior change much, much easier for people to make these choices and leave the car behind. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Melissa?
I don't know if I have much to add on this. I feel like Nisha, Eric, and Brody kind of covered all of the policy and the climate change ideas that I had. But basically just reiterating that we want to, keep the momentum up. I think it's very easy to get discouraged and frustrated, but we're doing it, in bits and pieces. So I think trying to maintain optimism is also really important. So thank you, everyone, for doing what you do.
Yes, thank you for doing all this amazing work in the region and helping with the transportation goals that we want, get people to use more other modes of transportation more and less the single occupancy car. So I want to just give you all a round of applause and thank you so much for your time for being here at this panel. We have maybe a couple of minutes for questions before we wrap up with our quick update. So are there any questions that you want to ask? Somebody can, you can raise your hand or we can like monitor the chat. Yeah, looks like Elain is just saying great discussion. And then Joseph, if you want to start sharing the slides so that we can have the updates. Yeah. Okay, apparently all of you did a great job at explaining what you do. So we can just move on to our organizational updates. We have two, one from Stephanie from Dr. Mac and then another one from Elaine. So yeah, thank you, Melissa. So if all of you would like to add your email into the chat, all the panelists, so that people can reach out to you if they have questions, I think that's a great idea.
Can I ask the questions of the panel?
Yeah.
Because Melissa mentioned that they only have one band pool, and Nisha, I think you've mentioned that we've had a decline in band pool. Maybe someone from the audience can help us better understand how to get band pool back and what be the best approach to make that happen.
Melissa, did you? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can just share that I've been trying to revise our contract with Commute with Enterprise to switch over to the flex model. Our current van pool is on the traditional, set number of people in one pool. And I think that switching to the flex would provide more flexibility to those who are interested but can't commit to a full 5 days a week commute. That's where I'm hoping we'll gain some popularity, but I haven't officially done that yet.
So we actually have our contract does allow us to, negotiate this new, it's called the Move project, but the flex model that Melissa mentioned. We do not currently have any signups yet, so I thought this would be a really easy, low-hanging fruit for people who are working hybrid schedules. And so far, we have not seen the flex model as kind of the carrot that we thought it would be. I think we just need to put out more information, put out more awareness of this, but there are also some parameters of Vanpool that I think make it harder for certain types of industries to participate. And I do want to caveat, we are not yet back at our pre-pandemic levels for Vanpool, but we're getting extremely close. Recently, I was on a call though with a university that has multiple campuses. They were looking to move students who go to school in these multiple campuses. That is not something that is allowed under the current Vanpool agreement. So I think some flexibility in terms of how the program is used, as opposed to just the adoption of some hybrid model best practices. I think the combination of both of those two things would really help people get back into Vanpool.
Yeah, those are good points. Flexibility and then broadening the scope of what you can do and where you can go. Thanks. Okay. Well, thank you again to all of our panelists. We're gonna move on to hear from Stephanie. Do you have a quick 1-minute update on what's going on with Dr. Mac?
Yeah, so yeah, just sharing out, we have our regional coordinating council coming up on June 3rd from 1:30 to 3 p.m. on Zoom. So the Boulder MAC is one of the local coordinating councils, and Dr. Mac is the regional coordinating council. So everyone who is here should come. We will be having a panel discussing private pay transportation, their role in coordination. So in the panel discussion today, we heard a lot about the different transit types, and there's a lot out there. So it should be a good discussion. I'm going to paste the link to the meeting in the chat to register for that, but hope to have you all there.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Steph. And then we have Elaine, I believe.
Yeah, hi, thanks. And I know a lot of the folks here, just to point out, so Boulder Chamber Transportation Connections is one of the local TMAs. So just like NETC serves that area, we serve the city of Boulder, and we do it helping employers and people with their questions and promoting Walk and Bike Month. So in our area, in the Boulder area, we've been doing Bike to Work Day for a lot of years, and it has expanded to a full month of activities. This year, things do kick off on June 1st with the B360 event, and I can put a link to that. This event's gone on a really long time, and it's super fun in that there are a few ride options. There's a 24-mile ride where you're seeing a lot of Boulder. It's primarily on the greenways to highlight some of these great safe areas where you can have the experience. If you want a shorter ride, you can do a 12-mile loop that we call the B180. This starts at 10 a.m. at Valmont City Park in East Boulder. And then people come back at the end for ice cream. And if you're doing the ride, BCTC will be at the rest stop. That's about halfway through for either version. And Topher with Boulder Open Space Mountain Parks is also making an adaptive ride that will be a part of this. So his group is actually going to start over by Wonderland Lake at their trailhead there where they keep adaptive bikes. So if you have an adaptive bike, if you know somebody who does that and needs that, they can join the group. And I'm still waiting for Topher's direct link to the information, but I can share that out once I get it. Anyway, it's just a chance for people to experience, the three-wheel, the adaptive bikes, and be able to have that experience. So I think that's a great thing. Then on June 18th, we also have June 11th is the bike show. June 18th is an event that our group is doing with John Zimmerman coming into town. So there's a lot happening through Walk and Bike Month. And of course, June 25th will be Bike to Work Day, and there will be breakfast stations all over town. This has gone on, as I say, many, many years, and there's still people saying, I want to become a station for the first time this year. So typically we have some 40 breakfast stations. So if you go hungry that day, you're doing something wrong. But yeah, we'll be there at the chamber at Folsom and Pearl, and it'll be a lot of fun. There's also a happy hour event, and we do aim, so there's walking activities as well. Everything's on that walkandbikemonth.org page for people to find out more information. But yeah, hope you can get involved, because I will say, especially after hearing this discussion, I feel very lucky, able-bodied, active, love cycling, love walking, and it allows me to use transit. So I'm in that group of people where I use transit, I don't have an extra car, my husband and I share one, but if we needed to have another car, we could. We choose not to. And that is not how it works for so many people. So making sure that our streets are safe for biking and walking, and that people have the options to get around, I think is just so crucial.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Elaine. Thanks for the updates and for the conversation. We are at time, so I just want to remind you all that our next meeting will be in person. It is on June 18th. It's going to be in Lafayette, and we're going to be talking to clients about riding training. So we will see you there in person. And yeah, that's the information again. It's a little bit of a longer meeting, so we're going to start at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. because I think this is going to be just a hands-on training. So yeah, reach out if you have any questions. And in the meantime, have a great rest of your day. We did it. Thank you all. Thank you for staying here, and thanks for the great
Thanks,
panel.
everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.